Hey everyone, James Wilson here with Pedaling Innovations, and today I wanted to share some tips for helping you to avoid catching your feet or hitting your pedals on rocks. Now, first I want to say these are general tips. No matter what pedals you ride, this is going to help you out. So one of the things I do want to point out is a lot of people find that by simply switching to the Catalyst pedal, they have fewer rock strikes because their foot is more balanced, right? So one of the things that you find that's catching is your toes. So when you're on the ball of your foot and you start getting this toe down position here and you catch your toe, I mean, I've literally gone endoed. I mean, miraculously, the mountain biking gods reached down and protected me from all the other rocks around. It was insane, but I've caught toes before, right? So it's not really pedal strikes as much as like catching your feet and your toes that's really dangerous. And so as you can see, once you get a more balanced position, now your foot is more level, and so your toe's not actually down at such an extreme angle. And so a lot of riders, like I said, have reported that just simply switching and getting a better foot position has helped. But even then, the truth of the matter is it's not your equipment that comes down to your foot or your pedals hitting rocks. It's the rider's fault. It is I believe in extreme ownership. If you haven't read that book, you need to. But at the end of the day, you're the only one who needs to take responsibility for what happens to you on the trail, right? And so pedal strikes and rock strikes are one of these things. So there's three things that I've found that can really help people avoid this happening to them on the trail. Now, the first thing is to look ahead. I got to say, I guess kind of stepping back just a second ago, let me point out the number one culprit for this problem, and then I'll go over the three tips. The number one culprit for the problem of people having rock strikes, hitting their feet and pedals on rocks, is the sit and spin advice and mentality that is so pervasive in our sport. Telling people that they need to sit down and they need to spin a low tension, high RPM gear on the trail it doesn't work. And this is what leads to a lot of the rock strikes that happens on the trail, because you're going through and you're just sitting and spinning, and really you're just kind of playing like Russian roulette with your feet and the rocks. And so in that case, it helps to have the tiniest pedals possible, because you're just putting the odds of not hitting a rock in your favor in this Russian roulette game. But I'd rather not play Russian roulette. I'd rather have control over what's going on. And so getting away from the sit and spin mentality and understanding that there is a time and a place to stand up and push a heavier gear. And this is one of those times. So the number one piece of advice that I have for people is to do that, to look ahead more, really. Like, that's the number one thing, right? So if you can avoid it, if you can, you don't want to pedal through rock gardens. You don't want to pedal through, spots where you may catch a pedal. If you're looking ahead and you see that something's coming up, and you stand up and you give a couple good hard pedal strokes and you build momentum going into it, and now you're able to use that momentum and your technique and flow to get through that rock garden or whatever it is, then that's optimal. That's the best thing possible. If you're not pedaling, then you don't have to worry about catching your feet and pedals. And so looking ahead helps, but that's hard to do when you're sitting and spinning and just kind of going this constant speed and just kind of like, oh, here's you don't really get that opportunity. And so tied into that are the other two pieces of advice, which are, one, to stand up more, and tied in with this is to use a higher gear. Like, get away from spinning an easy gear, especially through rock gardens and stuff where you got to watch your feet, because you may have to, you come to a spot where, like, hey, a full pedal stroke and I'm going to catch a rock. Like, you need to be aware of where your feet are in relation to the trail. Like, obviously freak accidents happen, right? But you 9 times out of 10 though, it's just people not being aware of their surroundings and paying attention to where their feet are on the trail. And so you need to be aware of that. And so if you see or aware of, like, okay, a full pedal stroke isn't going to work here, this is where like a quarter pedal stroke will help, or but these things don't work as well if you're sitting and spinning. you have to be standing up and you have to be pushing a little bit harder gear in order to work your way through. Like, you got to think about it. It's like, you know, spinning an easy gear at a high RPM is like a Formula One race car, right? Okay, there's a time and a place for that, right? But it's not on a trail. You know what you want on the trail? You want a Jeep. You want something that's got high torque, right? That's what you're looking for on the trail. And so when you're in these Jeep situations, right, where you're in a rock garden, you're picking your way through and you're having to pedal through it, you want to be more like a Jeep than a Formula One race car. And having this Formula One race car through rock gardens where you're just sitting and spinning, right? Like, it makes no sense. Like, standing up, getting a little higher gear, getting some torque. So now you've got that little oomph, and you can, like I said, the quarter pedal strokes and half pedal strokes work better. And so, but like I said, number one piece of advice is plan ahead, look ahead, right? You see something coming up, try not to pedal through it. It's like going into a corner. You don't want to get into a corner and then figure out what speed you want to go. You want to be planning ahead. You want to enter the corner at an appropriate speed. It's just like this you know, the trail ahead of the rock garden. If you see it and you can get a little momentum and carry yourself through it, that's optimal. If you can't and you have to pedal through it, then you need to be standing up and you need to be pushing a little bit harder gear. Now, again, though, I will point out that this advice is really tough to do on clipless pedals and normal pedals. Like, one of the reasons that the sit and spin mentality is so pervasive is because when you stand up and you're balanced on your tippy toes on these tiny little pedals, it feels unbalanced, right? So standing pedaling is not a comfortable position when your feet aren't supported properly. And when your foot isn't supported properly, you're not able to push that harder gear. As you push the harder gear, your foot is starting to flex more. You're having to resist more with the calf and Achilles tendon and put more stress on those joints in order to resist that higher tension, harder gear. And so again, these things don't feel good. And this is from a poorly supported foot. So it's funny when you really understand, like, how much of the advice that we get is based on our foot not being supported properly. So the whole sit and spin thing is based on that, right? So now when you have your foot supported properly, you get Catalyst pedals, and now you're able to support both ends of your arch. You've got pressure through the whole foot. You've got a balanced foot driving. When you stand up, you're not, you know, fighting this whole thing. It's a completely different experience. So now you can stand up more. Now you can push a harder gear, and it's a completely different experience for you. So not only are your feet not as sold out in the toe down position, but they're in a better position and better supported for you to stand up and push a harder gear. So again, one of the reasons that a lot of people find they're actually getting fewer rock strikes and you know, their feet catching rocks with the Catalyst pedal is because of these things. But you can apply this advice to any pair of pedals that you're riding. So it's just not as easy to apply this advice with small pedals. You need that proper foot support to really fully apply this advice. But again, at the end of the day, remember, if you hit a rock, if you're striking rocks, that's your fault, okay? It's not the pedal's fault. It's not the equipment's fault. And I know in today's society, we love to find something else to blame besides ourselves. But at the end of the day, you know, you got to take extreme ownership, and it is a technique thing. Again, freak accidents happen, right? I know they happen, but if it's a constant problem that you have, odds are it's you and not the pedals that you're riding. So fix your technique. And when you do this, riding is going to be more fun. You're going to be faster. You know, all of these things go along with it. So, you know, better technique leads to a lot of different things. So anyways, hopefully this has helped some of you out. If you've had problems with rock strikes, try this advice out and see if it doesn't help you out. Again, you can also just get a pair of Catalyst pedals and find that a lot of this stuff will naturally take care of itself. But if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. I'll be happy to get to them. And or you can hit me up at james@pedalinginnovations.com. Always happy to help. And I will talk to everybody next time.